Buckhead Church, good being with everybody again. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined by my good friend, Ted Cunningham, the funniest pastor in the Western Hemisphere. Have you ever had that title, Ted?
No.
Ted is the pastor at Woodland Hills Family Church in Branson, Missouri. What is your favorite nickname for Branson, Missouri?
I like the official title of Live Country Music Capital of the World, but obviously the most slang one is Hillbilly Vegas.
Hillbilly Vegas. I've been to Ted's church numerous times. They are some of the most fantastic people on the planet. And I'm not just saying that because you're on this podcast, Ted. I would say it even if you weren't. You went to Dallas Seminary. That's one of the things that we share, other than both just being just incredibly good looking. But you have written
so much better.
Well, it's the window. You have written 10 books, 12 books, 15 books. What's the number?
I think the latest one's 11.
11 books, most of them on marriage, all of them on marriage?
All of them but one. One is on parenting.
Okay,
And then I realized I wasn't good at parenting. I went right back. I'm much better at marriage.
Well, you've been a real great voice for our church. You've spoken at married life events for us for a long time. You might be the most invited back outside communicator in the North Point Ministries world. So if that is a title that anyone in the world would care about, you might have that. So,
well, you're very kind. We're hoping you get to come back to Branson
I know.
Summer.
July. There's a camp there called Kanakuk where I do get to see Ted in the summer, and we're trying to figure out, well, I guess they're trying to figure out if they're going to have it or not.
Yeah.
Which is, everybody's in a lot of tough things going on in the world. A lot of people feeling, a lot of people grieving things that they've lost, for sure. What's your strategy on helping people feel better, Ted?
Yeah, we at our church have been use the grief cycle whenever tragedy or crisis hits. So our last tragedy to deal with as a community was in 2018. We had a duck accident on the lake, which you're unfamiliar. That's that amphibious vehicle that goes down into the lake, and that happened in July. I think the week after you were here, and we lost 17 people in that accident. Wow. And whenever something like that happens, our church grew by 20% that Sunday in attendance because kind of like 9/11, we were grieving, we were mourning as a community. And so we use the grief cycle to kind of set the teaching map and the tone. It's very important for us.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that, shock and denial is stage one in grief. And we all experienced that as a church, March 14th and 15th this year. And it was interesting. I had some friends that met on March 15th in their churches, others that canceled. All the online back and forth. And you could just see everybody was processing shock and denial. I cannot believe this is happening. Then some people a day or two later moved to stage 2 of grief, which is anger. Others were there in a week or two. And then you just had people just mad that their businesses were shut down, mad that they can't go out, mad that I can't eat at a restaurant, and then stage 3 is depression. Yesterday, and I have it on the board here in our, what we call the den at our church and where our staff meets. And I've been, every week just asking, hey, where y'all at? How you doing? We believe that our church and a lot of us are in stages 3 and 4 right now, which would be stage 3 is depression. Stage 4 is dialogue. You and I, it felt like we were in 4 when we were talking before this podcast, that just dialogue, like what's the next? What are we doing? Still saying, I don't know. And then, stage 5 is acceptance. You accept the new normal, and 6, you begin planning for it. And so for us, we're just very clear from worship and teaching, working with couples in crisis. The couples were in crisis before this crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we work with them? One of the keys in ministering in times of grief and loss is that we meet people at the stage they're in, not the stage we're in. And this is true for couples. Like Amy and I, we want grief to be a straight line. Okay, we had a week of shock and denial. We had a week of anger, a week or two of depression. And now we're, I wish it was a straight line. I wish there was a precise timeline, but there ain't. It is more like a roller coaster, dips and turns along the way. And I think the marriages that do well through grieving, when couples grieve well together, they're really understanding where the other's at. And Amy and I are rarely at the same stage at the same time. And just that, you've heard me say it before, Clay, but that listening, understanding, and validating, as Gary Smalley taught us years ago, that love talk. I want to know where you're at and deal with it. And part of the struggle, if I can give another word picture, when I work with churches, when a pastor morally fails, it's the same thing. It's grief. And a lot of times pastors, especially your CEO general type, I'm more of a chaplain type pastor. I'm not the hard charging CEO type, but a lot of times the church will make the announcement week one to the church. What happened? Shock and denial. Can't believe it. Then they can move into anger. But then you show up a week or two later and the church organizationally has jumped to stage 5, right?
Yeah, let's plan. Right.
We're planning it's like, the problem with that is when you start leading, this is what's hard in this time. You can't lead in the stage you're at. You have to continue to lead people in all of the other stages.
Whoa.
And I think that's happening right now sometimes. And I think I've heard you refer to it. I've heard Carrie Newhoff refer to it as tone deafness. And I love the term. Tone deafness is approaching someone in your stage of grief.
Yep.
And ignoring theirs.
Yeah. Everybody's all sad about it and you're being all rah-rah. Like, this is going to be awesome. Best opportunity ever. Don't let it go to waste, all of that. You're missing what they're feeling. So those, you said them, I don't want to rush by them too quickly. LUV, love, listening, understanding, and validating. My hope for everybody listening, watching, is that this would be really practical. And that right there is a great place to start, that every single one of us could do a little bit more of that it's not just paying attention to where am I right now, but it's saying, hey, this week, I'm going to carve out some intentional time to make a little love. Is that the way you'd say it, Ted? To make a little LUV?
What did you call my earlier? Love that hurts? Laughing and telling. Love that hurts. I ain't writing that. I love you, and it hurts me so bad. The love
Ted has a new book called A Love That Laughs, LAUGHS. And I said, what is your new book called? Is it called A Love That Laugh Till It Hurts? That's what I said. Sorry. It's not Laugh Till It Hurts. It's A Love That Laughs. But yeah, that's a great place for us to start, is we can just start there going, all right, do I know where my spouse is right now? Not geographically, but have I listened enough, understood enough, and validated enough to go, okay, I think I feel, and it doesn't matter if husband, wife, either way, we're all called to lead. And a great place to start is by going, all right, well, where is everyone right now?
Yeah. And remember, since grief is not an exact timeline or a precise timeline, if you did the listen, understand, and validate well yesterday, and you're like, okay,
we're good.
A little sadness going on here. Just help with it. Yeah. And then tomorrow you're like, wait a second. That's grief. You can come in and out of these states.
That's great.
And so that's why it's every day. And I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago when someone was sharing, they were concerned because from West Virginia to Los Angeles to Salt Lake City, these reports are coming out that domestic abuse calls were up 30 to 35%.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, and the person asked me, was like, so does that mean, there's more domestic abuse cases, they're rising? Well, you said it earlier, a crisis always reveals what's already in you, right? This is Mr. and Mrs. Mugg that Andy uses as an illustration. So the domestic abuse is rising from those who already had that control and manipulation and violence in them.
Wow.
So if you were a somewhat, and I'm not even saying thriving couple, but a somewhat happy couple, a somewhat getting by couple, you don't need to fear that in this time you're all of a sudden going to become an abuser. It's just intensifying everything going on. So now is the time to discover what is in each of us and to just give that time. Part of Love Talk, a great skill in there is drive-through listening. Drive-throughs are one-way communication at a time. You can't both be talking or you're talking over each other. So I'm just listening. I love the Old Testament term of inclining the ear. That means I lean in and I give you my ear. The understanding.
Not my opinion. Not my opinion. Not my solutions. But I give you my ear.
Before this podcast, you and I were giving opinion after opinion after opinion, and then we said, "What? We don't know."
Who knows?
So I'm listening, and then understanding. How do you know if you're understanding? You repeat back to your spouse word for word what they're saying in your own body language tone.
So what I hear you saying is.
And I know that sounds cliche and I know that sounds clinical and people are like, oh, it doesn't seem real. It seems fake. But when you say what I hear you saying is and repeat back, your spouse immediately will say, that's not at all what I'm saying. Or, yeah, you got it. And you don't quit. If you get that's not at all what I'm saying, that's not the place to stop. Rephrase it. Change up how you say the word. I really want to understand what you're saying. And remember, understanding is not about sharing opinions. It's about the feelings level. It's about knowing where that person is at emotionally, not when they think the country is going to open back up. It's the nugget, the emotional nugget underneath whatever opinion may be shared. And then validating is simply getting the stamp like you get when you pull into a garage.
Yeah, that's legitimate that you feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah, you were here. You heard me. You understood. And you get where we're going. And again, just because you did that well today, understand your spouse could be at a very different place tomorrow.
That the way you gently just coached me on that, because I wanted to put it on the to-do list and go, so everybody this week, make sure that you LUV and then check it off your list so you can move on. The way you gently were like, hey, hang on there, buddy. It's not just a one-time thing. It's an everyday, every moment kind of thing. Ted, can I interject with a quick story? I might have to edit this out later because I have not gotten my wife's approval. But yesterday, this very thing happened where I did not L, U, or V. We have a dog. I don't know if you can hear. It's a puppy, and the dog is pretty much always barking. So I get up a little earlier than my wife, and when I get up, I take the dog out. And then the dog doesn't want to come back inside, wants to hang out. So I usually just leave the door cracked open. And then the dog will come back inside eventually. But then the dog starts roaming the house. And the dog's not totally potty trained yet. And so sure enough, about 10 minutes later, I was like, where did Tater Tot go? He's upstairs. Oh, no. So he's gone upstairs and he found a room. The kid in this particular room had already gotten up and moved to one of his siblings' rooms. And he pooped and peed in the room. Well, I didn't realize it because the lights were off. So I take the dog, take him back downstairs, give him his food, whatever, move along in the day. So at about 10:30, I'm up here in this little room that I'm working out of, and my wife sends me a text and says, Tater pooped and peed in Cooper's room. I feel so disrespected when you let him roam the house. And
disrespected. That's a great feeling word.
It was a great feeling word. And she was doing a great job of telling me how she felt. Well, I felt yelled at. I felt scolded. And so the meeting lasts for another hour and I'm just sitting here stewing on it, being like, I didn't just let him roam. I'm trying to, take care of life and whatever. But I'm working myself up, getting all mad. So like immediately, like lunchtime hits, I walk downstairs and I'm like, I disrespected you? And then I just went in on how frustrated her text made me feel. And I did zero. If I would have gone down there and said, hey, I am so sorry you felt disrespected. Tell me more about how you felt. At that point, she had calmed down and it wasn't even an issue. But I took all my anger and went downstairs and blew the whole thing up again like a flippin' idiot that I am. So this LUVE thing is, that's real. That is real on the road advice. Anything else you want to call out for my stupidity that would be worth helping people with?
Helping you. I'm just helping you. With LUV, I think that's so important. When you're listening, I can validate your feelings when I completely disagree with your opinion. That's what I think holds people up. So your issue there was the dog and the dog in or out and how people, because you both had legitimate feelings there. You felt controlled. She felt disrespected. Those are great, what we call on the 6 levels of communication, the level 4 feelings. Those are great feeling words. So I can disagree with your opinion, validate your feelings without seeing any of your opinions or feelings as an attack on mine.
Gosh, that is huge.
So, right, and we say this all the time, and you've heard pastors say this. Listening to you doesn't mean I agree with you. And disagreeing with you doesn't mean I hate you or I'm frustrated with you right now. So be able to separate opinions and feelings and whatever your strategy is with the dog being in the house or out of the house. But for you to take the time to listen, understand, and validate to why she feels disrespected, you do that. And if you take the time, it does take 5 minutes, it takes 10 minutes, it takes 15 minutes. I'm telling you, I see it all the time. That flips the switch in the spouse to want to do the same thing to you. How did you take that text? Instead of you telling her what that text made you.
Oh, I told her how I took the text. Now that's right.
Yeah. I knew clearly my opinion on the text.
But you're right. If I would have gone in, I love that simple idea of differentiation is another term for it, that if you can get to the point where you are differentiating yourself from, I don't have to be so whipped around by the way she's feeling about things. And she doesn't have to do the same about me, that if I can go, hey, I am going to listen, I'm going to understand, I'm going to validate, but I don't have to, that doesn't mean that I am in the middle of all of that with you, because I might not be in the middle of, in this case with the dog pooping the pee. I don't like that, but it definitely did not really bother me that much, near as much as it bothered her. And then of course she goes, well, did you have to clean it up? Did you clean it up? And I'm like, no, no, that is a very
did you
great
get point. The pop out?
That's right.
So I think this is important as we talk about feelings. I just don't think a lot of people in the church have been taught well about feelings because they've been taught to stuff them. I think I love what my friend Ryan Pinnell says. He's a therapist that focuses on the family. He says, our feelings are like our children. Okay, we listen to them, we care for them, we just don't allow them to make major decisions for our family. That to me, isn't that a great
That is phenomenal. Our feelings are like our children. We listen, we care for them, but we don't let them determine the budget.
Yeah, don't let them determine the budget or
make purchases on Amazon. Right.
Yeah, and the reason I say that, well, because even when I say, I think it's important. Healthy people aren't threatened by the opinions or feelings of others. You can have your own opinions and feelings. And I think when we started this talking about the grief cycle, when you hear that stage 3 depression, you immediately think unhealthy. I'm an unhealthy person for feeling overwhelmed or helpless through this crisis.
Is that true? Is somebody an unhealthy person for feeling depressed?
For feeling overwhelmed and helpless in the grief cycle? No. If they'll talk it through and listen and share when they get to the dialogue, which is the very next one. If you can get into dialogue where I want to share my story. Now I want to share what I've been feeling. And that I would say, if someone's in stage 3 in the grief cycle, and the only reason I say none of the 6 stages of grief make you an unhealthy person is because grieving is to be human. We all grieve. We grieve in different ways. As followers of Christ, we're called to grieve with hope. It doesn't mean, and grieving with hope doesn't mean we stop grieving. It means we grieve, but at every stage we have hope. Shock, denial, anger, depression. We're following through that. So a healthy person is able to call it out. And I've been asking people, hey, where are you at in this? And I'll show them. And sometimes, if that person bristles, I'm not going to tell you I'm angry. Well, as soon as you do that, I'm pretty much, I think I know what stage you're in. And that's okay to be able to share that, express that. And aren't we grateful in marriage that I have someone I can do that with? And the key to all of this, love talk, is safety. Right? We tell our prayer team, if someone comes down and shares something, like drops a bomb on you, unsafe is, I can't believe
you did what?
You're getting all your opinions and feelings out on the table. I receive them. I want to listen. I want to understand what you're feeling. And I'm just telling you, if you want to experience high levels of marital satisfaction, even through a crisis, and frankly, we're still dealing with a lot of uncertainty, and we've got to be prepared for helping people process a lot of loss in the weeks and months ahead. So we have got to be good at it. I was telling somebody earlier today, I think the most exhausting part of ministry, and home group, small groups get this, that, we're called to mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice. The hard part is we do that. We swing back and forth between those two every single day and multiple times a day. And that's why it's exhausting.
Yes.
When a flood hits our community, I'll be in the lobby of church and rejoicing with someone who the water was 10 feet from their back door when it crested, and they're rejoicing. And then I walk over here to a person who flooded.
Devastated.
I celebrate, rejoice with the family who just delivered a baby. And I walk over here and mourn with the family who just lost a baby. Same thing's going on now. Rejoicing with, someone whose business has not been affected yet by this, and
they love more time at home.
And mourning over here. I mean, so that's marriage too. We're rejoicing and mourning with each other, going back and forth in and out of these feelings. And some will say, this is exhausting. Yes, it is. It's very tiring.
Oh, that's a great answer, Ted. It's exhausting. Yeah. It is.
I wish I could tell you it's easy, but it's rewarding.
It's worth it. What you need. That's right.
It's worth it. It's fulfilling, and it leads to. We were just saying earlier, I think our churches are going to be stronger this fall because of what we went through together. Yeah. We are in Branson, Missouri. You've been here, and we have this thing called Vietnam reunions, Korean War reunions, Battleship. These guys that went through war together, 40, 50, 60 years later, are still gathering in Branson because they're the best of friends. And if you will go through this crisis together, committed together, you will be stronger on the other side of it.
Well, that's a great place to wrap up, Ted, because there's a lot of hope in that we are sharing an experience that is, I know that a lot of people have used that war analogy, that we are going through a war type experience together. I mean, this is certainly, it's a worldwide crisis that's hitting all of us in different ways. And I love that idea that a marriage can come out stronger because of this shared experience that we have. Any final encouragement, maybe to the couple that is struggling and they're thinking, hey, we thought we had a pretty good marriage, but man, this has just really tested us because of the stress that we're under and having to communicate in a new way and juggle homeschooling and business concerns and worries. What would you say to people just to lift up their spirits today?
I think one thing, I see counselors, therapists, pastors on the same page with couples, which I like, and I'm hearing multiple counselors share this with their clients. Make no major decisions for your marriage right now.
Wow.
None.
Wow.
None. Don't decide whether you're staying or going right now. Do not decide that. All big decisions are put on hold until we get through this. And then even then start processing things well, because you're spending so much time together. You become educators. You're with the kids. Things are coming out of you that can be dealt with, and you don't have to bolt on your marriage. So if you're thinking this marriage is over, it's never going to last, just stop that decision immediately. You would be rushing a decision in a bad time right now. So take that off the table.
I love that. Ted, thanks. Hey, Ted, thanks so much. Thanks for bringing so much practical help. I love the chaplain description. You are like a chaplain for so many people. So thank you. Keep doing what you're doing because we need you.
All right. Thanks for always taking my call. You're encouraging a small church in Branson as well, my friend. Thank you.
Glad to do it.